Good evening.
Good evening.
You gotta start somewhere. I'm Ranger Tim Raines, and I am the Arts Coordinator for Denali National Park Preserve. And on behalf of the National Park Service, welcome to the first ever annual Denali Music Festival and outreach of the Fairbanks Summer Arts Festival. Arts were integral to the creation of the National Park Service. Remote places like Yellowstone, Yosemite, Grand Canyon, and Denali were brought to the forefront of the American conscience through illustration, writing, and music, inspiring one of America's greatest ideas to preserve and protect these wild places. Nearly 100 years later, arts combined with research create new opportunities to discover, explore, and understand what this land has to offer. I have to confess, though, tonight, there is also a personal mission involved. There was a midnight, and for those of you that live in Alaska, it could have been any one of those midnights in the long midnight summers. But on this particular midnight, I was out on the park road out near the Eielson Visitor Center, and I was chasing the light, hoping that it would break through the storm clouds. I remember standing on the edge of that park road, and I was tired, I was frustrated, and I was exhausted when that last ribbon of golden light slipped gracefully underneath the clouds and began to dance across the range. It was as if a weight had been lifted off of me. I had an opportunity to see this landscape and see the heart of this landscape, and what I saw was vulnerable. What I saw was tender. And it was a reflection of what I was feeling at that moment. But when I tried to share that experience with others, I found that I couldn't find the right words to describe the intensity of that moment. And I wanted to share that with others. I wanted them to see what I saw, to feel what I felt, to be there with me. There may have been no words, but there were a few notes of song. And as soon as I found a piano, I sat down and gave voice to the ruminative experience of being in a wild place. It is with that night in mind that when I got a phone call from composer Stephen Lias, I knew that we had to find a way to bring him up here, that he could help interpret this landscape through music and share that with our visitors. It is with exceptional gratitude that I extend a special thank you to composer Stephen Lias tonight for the gift of his song, Denali. Stephen spent about a week out at the historic Eastport Cabin in the heart of the park, immersing himself in wilderness, leading to the creation of the piece that you will hear this evening. We're also grateful to Cherise Captor, director of the Fairbanks Summer Arts Festival, their music director Robert Franz, and the Fairbanks Summer Arts Festival String Orchestra, and the Denali Arts and Humanities Alliance for making this collaboration tonight possible. Chris Capps. Community liaison for the arts and representative of the Denali Arts and Humanities Alliance, will now say a few words.
I am Chris Capps. I help spearhead the Denali Arts and Humanities Alliance, and I want to welcome you to this historic evening, the first ever orchestra performance inside Denali National Park. A few special thank yous. Joy on Airmark Joint Venture will be hosting a reception immediately after the performance. You're all invited to join us there, right outside the Visitor Center. The 49th State Brewing Company, Denali Park Salmon Bake, Alaska Airlines, and most importantly, Fairbanks Summer Arts Festival, and Cherise Captor, the director. Cherise, will you please wave so people can see who you are? This has been an amazing collaboration that brings world-class musicians to Denali National Park. And it all started when a composer named Stephen Lias came to Denali last summer, and I'd like to introduce him right now. Stephen.
it's a fancy name for something that's really much more simple, much more human, and it's really just an exchange of gifts. An artist comes to a national park and receives the gifts that it gives, and then in turn they return to the park a gift of their own, a piece of artwork, each according to their own discipline. So last year, as you've heard, I was very generously given the opportunity to come to Denali, and you know what gifts I received. Because either you live here, or you came here to get those very same gifts. So there's no secret what this park gives people. That's why we're all here. And because I'm a composer, the gift I decided to give back to the park is a piece for string orchestra. And nothing pleases me more than to have you all here to share in the experience of me giving this gift back to the park that gave me so much. So I have very little to say other than thank you for coming. Thank you to Tim and Chris and Therese and all the other collaborators. It's been an amazing experience, and I'm delighted to have you all here sharing it with me this evening. So my last duty is to introduce to you the music director of the Fairbanks Summer Arts Festival, Maestro Robert Franz.
unbelievably honored to be here performing in this historic occasion, and I promise Tim and Chris will try not to break anything on this first night of performing at Denali National Park. That first piece we put together this week, and it was a real labor of love for us to be able to do it. Next up, I put together a program of 3 pieces tonight, and the next piece sort of changes slightly the trajectory. It's a piece for fiddle and orchestra by Mark O'Connor, who's a fantastic fiddler and composer. And he wrote this suite called Strings and Threads, and it actually is a compilation of a number of folk tunes. So you're going to hear Fair Dancer Reel, Sailor's Jig, Captain's Jig, Off to Sea, Pilgrim's Waltz, Road to Appalachia, Shine On, Cotton Pickin' Blues, Pickin' Parlor Rag, Queen of the Cumberland, Texas Dance Hall Blues, Swing 11-11, and Sweet Suzanne, 13 of them all together. And just in case you're going to count. And so one of the great things about the Fairbanks Arts Festival is that it's a festival of as many different art forms as you can possibly imagine, all under one roof. And to be able to collaborate is really the key to our success and to our inspiration, really. And so one of the categories, one of the departments at the Fairbanks Summer Arts Music Festival is fiddling, led by Caitlin Warbelow, who's an incredible fiddler, as you will hear. So, ladies and gentlemen, she has come to join us this evening is Caitlin Warbelow. nice for the people who are standing to come sit. We've got some seats that we don't need to block off anymore because Caitlin's done. So these will be blocked. We don't want to bump you. We just want to, entertain you. So, but we've got, and there's some empty seats down in here too, so come down. You don't have to stand if you don't want, unless you want. After a long day of hiking, I'm sure standing is a really nice. So, the third and final piece on this evening's program is a Serenade for Strings by Tchaikovsky. But before we perform that for you, I want to just mention that the Fairbanks Summer Arts Festival is made up of musicians from not only around the country, but many of the musicians are from here in the interior as well as throughout Alaska. So it's a real amalgamation of people from near and far that come together to put these performances on. In fact, this orchestra will be performing 4 concerts, 4 different programs over the course of 2 weeks. So it's a really exciting and high-powered couple of weeks. This piece that we're going to end with this evening is this Tchaikovsky Serenade for Strings. He wrote it around the time of another work, the 1812 Overture, the cannons and the whole 9 yards. And it couldn't be any more different from that piece if he tried. In fact, he wrote in it, it's a pretty cool piece, that 1812 Overture, right? You like it? All right, so you should always be cautious when you ask a composer about their piece, because this is what Tchaikovsky wrote about these 2 pieces. The 1812 Overture will be very showy and noisy. We all agree with that, right? But will have no artistic merit, because I wrote it without warmth and without love. But the Serenade, on the contrary, I wrote from an inner compulsion. This is a piece from the heart. Now, the work is, as I mentioned, 4 movements. The first movement, it starts with a slow introduction, and then it's got this Mozart-like first movement. The second movement is a waltz, and really, it's very much in the style of the great waltzes that Tchaikovsky wrote for Sleeping Beauty, Swan Lake, and a little-known tune he wrote called The Nutcracker. The third movement, go ahead, easy back over. Second, yeah, right, that's right. The third movement is really nothing short of a love song without words. It's really some of the most beautiful, heartfelt music you can imagine. And the last movement is based on 2 Russian folk tunes, so I thought it would go really well with these American folk tunes that we just heard. Different flavor for sure, but very exciting and very fiery at the end. This is the Tchaikovsky Serenade for Strings, and I just want to say thank you for having this first experience ever at Denali Park with us. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.